All right, now that you've got your scores, you've gone from the score, you've seen what they've marked, and you've marked it in the appropriate square. For all of those, and you're going to come down to the bottom, and you're going to total up however many are for each section.
Each section?
Yes, because when you come down, that total, because like number 1 is there, number 2 is here, number 3 is here, number 4 is here, number 5 goes back over here. So you're going to have most of them under the SD right now.
I see.
And then so you're going to add up whatever these add up to and put that here. Okay? And then you're going to go to this lovely little chart and see if any of the ones that are marked, if number 8 is marked on, is like a higher one. If number 8 is like a 4, that's going to be significant. If number 11 is a 4, that's going to be significant. And the other ones we haven't gotten to yet, so we don't have 32 and 44. So if those are significant, then that means that those would be areas that would show that there is a clinical significance. And since those are considered critical, you would have to follow up with another assessment. So if it's under the number 8 is a high one, then what you would do is the Columbia Suicide Scale to see where that is. If it's been in the past, if it's in the right now, which it should be right now because it's supposed to be the week including today, what that looks like. Is there a history of something going on? And are they suicidal currently? Actively suicidal ideations. So we have to do those where there's that critical need. Substance abuse, I have a substance assessment on there. It's like 5 or 6 questions. You would probably say, this one's a little on the higher side. Can we check for an area maybe we need to address in this area too, which could be supporting the other things that are going on in your life. And the same thing with the violence. We want to keep them safe. So even if they're the ones who are violent, we still want to keep them safe because if they hurt people, they go to jail. They're not safe, and so we don't want that to be an issue. We want to make sure that we're taking care of our clients, okay? So that's how you would present that. It's not that there's anything, specifically bad about it. We want to thank them for being honest, and then say, this is an area that's important. We want to make sure you're safe. And it seems like when you get upset, you're not comfortable with that. That's an area that you want to start working on. So we express it in a manner like that. Because if you say, oh, you've got violence issues, they're probably going to throw something at you or storm off and scream or something. So you have to word it in a way that they can hear it and know that you're there and concerned about them and you're going to make that move forward with them to help them with that in your goals and stuff. Okay?
You're good. Mentally pretty stable.
You're mentally stable right now up through 11.
And so
Any questions about this? No. It goes pretty quick. It's a pretty quick assessment, and it works on several domains. And it, like it said, it's just a vital sign. It's just giving us a whoosh over. Sometimes clients, if you do an intake, don't answer some of these, but they may come back and answer them in this assessment. Because by the time they finish their intake assessment with you, they'll feel safer and more comfortable with you. Yes?
So this is a bit of an outlier question. What if you feel the client's lying and they're just trying to appease you on one of these?
You go with what it is, and if nothing shows up, then you're like, I just don't really know where I can help you at this point because I'm not seeing
how can you determine
that support.
if they lie? I mean, what's the body language?
Well, there are people that lie, but
Like
Suicidal
order, kids, like things like that.
Okay, so this is, if that's a good idea, you said that. If you've got somebody who's mandated,
Yeah.
or they're coming in by coercion of a partner
Right.
or a family member, or a boss, then what you do is you say, you know what, this is nothing that they're going to get. They're not going to see this. You're here voluntarily, and this is only for you. This is not for me. It's not going to help me at all. So I would encourage you to be very truthful on this, because that's the only way I can support you. If they're not, they're not. Yeah, I mean, we're not here to be investigators. We are not anybody, probation officers. We're not any of that. We're there to support them in their, right. You can't help somebody who doesn't want it. And usually if you start talking to them in that respect, like, your probation officer is not going to know what this says. This is for me to help you. Your goal is to get off of probation, if it's the violent side, that this is, I'm just looking at where I need to start to help you. And if you're not honest on this, that's not going to work. And, and if there's nothing for me to see, then that is what I have to report back to your probation officer, is that we're not seeing any need for them to be in with us. And you don't threaten with it, though. You make sure you don't threaten with that. You keep it very soft, and that's kind of a soft ending.
And if
Right.
you do walk out with somebody with you to your boss.
Yes, if you threaten them, you need some backup. Yes.
So I actually know someone who tried to commit suicide, and when they had to go to counseling, they refused to talk.
Yeah, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
And usually what I do is I just say, if you need me just to sit here with you, I'm here for you.
That's what, it's just kind of giving them the space to kind of, like, just get
But it
airing
kind
you
of
out.
goes with your question, because maybe they just don't want it.
Yeah, because so part of the reason I ask is part of my target population that I'll eventually help is adolescents in addiction.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, I remember myself as a kid, I lied all the time, and so I imagine like kids in the situation that that I am familiar with are also going to lie. It's just par for the course.
Good one for that is that you've got, I know your parents are on you. Everybody's been bugging you about this. I am here to help you get them off your back.
Oh, nice.
I am here to help you with that process, but you have to help me by completing these so that I can help you figure out a way to make choices that you're not getting in trouble. Not to be sneaky, but you have to word it right.
I know that like some therapists tend to try to completely start off topic. Like just ask, how was your day?
Mm-hmm.
What did you eat today? Who
Oh.
did you hang out with? And then kind of just slowly step into those questions that they really want answers to,
Mm-hmm.
but the client doesn't even realize that they're answering the questions. Instead of like just jumping straight into what made you want to do this or so many questions like that.
That's good when you're first starting out with your clients. But adolescents will catch on really quick, and they'll think you're trying to trick them and lie to them, and that's what everybody else does to them. So I don't trust you anymore.
Yeah.
Little kids, you can get away with that for longer. Adolescents, they're gonna be like, you're just trying to trick me like everyone else. You're not really here for me. You're for my parents. You're here for my parents. And so they won't trust you. What I do is when I've got assessments, I tell them, you know what, after talking today, there's some things I would like to get some numbers, because numbers are really great to help us figure these things out. And if it's to get your parents off your back or get the school to, quit doing whatever they're doing or, whatever, then I tell them, next session, I would like to do these assessments with you. And these are voluntary. If you start doing them and you are uncomfortable, you don't have to finish them. But that, I want to help you the best I can, and these assessments are going to help us with that. And it's going to help you see, and it's going to show your progress so that your parents can see that too when you want to show them.
The other thing too, I was kind of thinking about the scenario. Do we give these kinds of assessments when we know that the client has come from a traumatic experience and they might be still in a state of shock, like delirium in relation to consciously answering these questions, right? And so
Uh-huh.
do we just automatically go, yeah, we definitely need help here, there's no need for a test? Or do we still give them an assessment to kind of figure out what particular help or modality that we need help with?
If they've just been in a situation that's traumatic and they're in trauma, no. I mean, you're going to do this for this class so you get a good grade.
Right.
But when it's something like that, no. Something that's trauma, you've got to deal with the trauma first.
Right.
You
So
don't
we
go,
give
you
them,
know
like,
what the
here-
trauma is.
Yeah, so we don't give them this assessment and be like,
You
know,
still have to do an intake.
intake's fine,
But you don't go into you would probably do the Columbia suicide
right,
risk
because of the,
scale, but depending on the trauma.
yeah, so generally, let's say if it's adolescents or, women or men that are young adult, like the suicide, the violence one, to just check to see if they're being abused in any way.
If they're trauma, I mean, yeah, it depends on each case. Like you would not give them the GAD-7 or the PHQ-9 because guess what? Anxiety and depression are probably there if they just came through a
Yeah.
traumatic experience. So you don't want to overwhelm them in that respect. They're already overwhelmed.
sense.
Yes.
Are they telling you outright what happened, or is it like being relayed from like another medical professional?
It can be both. Yes.
Is it possible to administer the assessment without running down a list of questions? For instance, I felt uncomfortable just reading off questions and asking for an answer. Is it still okay for us to say something to the effect, well, I'd like to have a conversation with you about what's going on, and in the midst of that conversation, I'm going to ask you a series of questions that's just gonna get a overall feeling for how you feel.
You can
Just
do that.
throughout the session, ask the questions.
You can do that in a practice, not for this class. When you do this assessment, it has to be valid in going straight through the questions like they are, because there's a reason they're in the order they are and the way they're listed. And if you start putting stuff in, it starts changing the validity of the test. So if you're uncomfortable asking them, this one specifically says that the client can fill it out.
Okay.
You just ask them not to
Well, I
fill
mean,
out the
I know
side.
there are certain feelings that we have to get over to, it just comes with practice
Right.
as we get better. But,
Yes.
I was just wondering if that was a different approach.
You can do it, like I said, you can do it either way. My preference is to be one with more with the client and ask those questions, but I've been doing this forever. So, my comfort level is probably a lot higher with that. And that understanding of how they respond to the questions. I'm used to kind of gauging that. But, if it's like an assessment and you're like, at the end of the session, I have a few of those assessments that I told you we're going to have. So, just let me know how you feel when you're taking them. If you're struggling, let me know. It is voluntary. So you just remind them of that, but you can give them a clipboard with all to fill out at the end.
I'm glad you said something, because along these sort of assessments, it did feel very kind of clinical with the white lights on top, right? But it's important to kind of signify the soft skills required when delivering and also then delivering the assessment, but also I think, like,